Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So my name is Samantha, and we have to talk about this. So many of you asked me to go look at this video by Doug and Stacy. So I did. I did go watch it because I genuinely want to understand where you're coming from. I feel like I need to say this, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. When the fires happened in Maui in August of 2023, I had about 3,400 subscribers, a little over 3,000. And I had videos where I did the Where Are the Children videos that got 300,000 views. And for a person with only a little over 3,000 subscribers, that is tremendous. But I always wondered, why did YouTube allow those videos to go viral? Because you have got to understand something. The algorithm controls who sees what. They control what you're exposed to by what your natural inclination is and what you normally align with. These AI algorithms are tremendously smart, folks. And they know all your nuances. They know all your secrets. Everything on your phone, your computer, your iPad, your laptop, your Kindle, they're all connected. And you have a number in a computer somewhere that just drops all your information underneath it. Articles you read, books you order. If you do Walmart orders, they know what you eat. They track your credit card. So you to them are just a puzzle. And they spend tremendous amounts of money to keep you watching by showing you information that's going to catch your attention. Now, most of you may know that. Some of you probably have never heard that. But I always wondered why they wanted everybody focused on where are the children in Maui instead of the truth of what actually happened in Maui. And it took me 2 trips there and thousands of hours of dealing with people and documents to come up with a reason. They wanted everybody looking left when we all should have been looking right. Yet, I can still find people on the internet that believe that 2,000 children were kidnapped, not died in the fire, none of that, just scooped up and taken off the island. They firmly believe it, and there is absolutely nothing that anyone can say to change their minds. They are that far down that rabbit hole. Now, I personally went to Maui, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I know that that is not true. Yet, I see people claiming it is and then saying that Oprah paid me to say that it wasn't. Since I've had to deal with that level of disconnect between fact and fiction and then the proverbial rabbit hole, I now realize why so many people are so easily swayed into having the opinion of somebody else placed before you, saying you must believe this. So I'm going to not watch this entire video with you guys because I didn't find it that mind-blowing. I know people are like, oh my gosh, Sam, did you see it? Let me tell you what I did see. I saw that beginning around 1916, the Jewish people in Poland and Russia were already being abused, neglected, basically starved. Their lives were in peril. Half of the Jewish population at that time, which was, I think they said 12 million. And just for you guys that want to know the truth, in 2025, there are only 15 million Jews in the entirety of the world. But what I found on top of this is mind blowing. Not this. what I found about this is mind-blowing. And I really pray that you stay and you listen. If you're so interested in rabbit holes, then stay for this one. Now, I will say this. Doug didn't know what pograms were. If you watched the video, Leslie, the co-author of the book Growing Under a Poison Sky, which you can get at Amazon or on eBay or even Kindle, Growing Under a Poison Sky, talking about geoengineering, Leslie introduced all of you to pograms not a week ago when she was discussing Hitler's ability and the way that he was getting people to believe the Jewish people were demonic and worthy of death. And he called it pograms. They use that terminology in these newspaper articles that Doug's reading, but he doesn't know what that word is, right? But Leslie introduced you to it. I highly encourage you to go watch that video. Now, having said that, I found some very interesting information about Hitler. Hitler came to power in 1918. For the ones of you who did not know that, no, I'm sorry. Hitler rose to power in 1919 when he joined the German Workers' Party that became the Nazi Party. So you're seeing newspaper articles from that area, geographical area, saying that the Jews were already being starved, being abused, being hunted, basically. So the hatred for the Jewish people had already begun before Hitler was in full power. But the spirit of Hitler, the Antichrist spirit, was already at work. And that's what I'm fixing to show you. This is not some conspiracy Doug found where it proves that, you know, it's all smoke and mirrors and Jewish people really didn't die. That's not what Doug found. I'll show you what he found. There it is.
There were not that many people with clothes and children and no snow.
Man, this is some wild stuff, y'all. Okay? The victimhood and this ongoing story. I'll just finish off the video with you guys listening to the rest of the papers that he found and all the different 6 millions. Oh, please, y'all, I'm trying to tell you guys, this is way deeper than most people, like 90% of people can even comprehend, okay? This is a very long, strategic, thought out, well-executed plan, all right? And you're not going to like where it ends up, okay? But the first thing we have to do is we have to wake people up. We have to share the information. We have to dig in and make sure it's true, right? I don't want to send around any false information. I don't even know what to say. But just do with what you will with this information. This is all legit, 100%. And you can't rationalize or rationally make an excuse for why this number is always 6 million. And then we're told in World War II about the same number, 6 million. Okay? Just like when I found this video of him talking about these newspapers, all it takes is for people to hear and then to go do the homework. Watch the rest of this clip. I'm going to roll it for you right now.
Here's the next newspaper. This is New York Times again. The New York Times. This is dated February the 23rd, 1938. This is before the Second World War started. About a year and a half. The New York Times. This is page 23 that I want. There you go. Page 23. The New York Times, February 23rd, 1938. And the article is called Jewish Teachers Chided by Isaacs. I'll go along the bottom. And it's Jewish tragedy pictured. A depressing picture of 6 million Jews in Central Europe deprived of protection or economical opportunities, slowly dying of starvation, all hope gone, was presented to the teachers by Jacob Tarsus. The Jewish tragedy started when Hitler came into power in 1933. There it is again, people. 6 million Jews in Central Europe slowly dying of starvation. 6 million. This is in 1938. Jewish teachers chided by Isaacs. New York Times.
Okay, so I don't understand. Yeah, the 6 million, the number might be sus. You know, let me put it to you guys this way. Since the 1970s, I've been hearing about the starving children in South Africa. Right, the starving children in Africa. I've seen so many commercials of pot-bellied, big-headed, starving children in Africa since the 1970s. It's now 2025, and they're still screaming after 55 years that the children of South Africa are starving. Year after year, commercial after commercial, nonprofits after nonprofit. I wonder that if the world continues until, let's say, 2099 or 2100, if people will look back to the 1970s and see articles about starving children in Africa stretch all the way across 50 years and wonder if that's not propaganda. To me, all this that proves to me is that people like to repeat, newspapers repeat the same numbers over and over again. I'm not really sure why, but I don't understand is why so many people thought that was some kind of weird smoking gun. To me, it just proves what I'm fixing to show you next. Remember, if you can watch their rabbit hole, stop right there. If you watch the Doug and Stacy video, some of those articles were talking about the starving Jews, the Jews being treated badly in the Soviet Union, in Poland, in all those areas, right? That's what I'm saying. The Hitler spirit, the Antichrist spirit didn't just pop up with Hitler. Hitler was not the only person in 1919 that was gunning for the Jewish people. There was already a multitude of people taken over by that hatred. You look at America back in 2020, there were already people that were anti-Jew even then. But look at how it has sped up since 2020 to 2025. It is now literally a schism in the conservative party with how many people are now on the anti-Jew, anti-Israel side. Because, guys, there's no other way to say it. You're either for Israel or you are against it. It's not that hard. You don't get to say, well, I'm not against the Jews. You know, I'm for Palestine, then you're for Hamas. You don't deceive yourself, friends. That's all I'm saying. So when I hear people that come up with newspaper articles talking about the plight of the Jewish people all the way back to 1916 in the Soviet Union, in Poland, and your mind cannot connect that, of course, they were already being hated upon. Hitler did not come in power and then within 5 years annihilate almost a third of the Jewish people with no pushback. And that it had to have started before Hitler became in power. The rhetoric had to have been spread before Hitler became in power. The hatred had already begun to kindle in the hearts of people years before Hitler became in power. So what Doug's video did for me was not open up a Pandora's box of rabbit holes, but it was confirmation that from Russia to Germany, the Jewish people had no safe haven, and that they were tormented and abused for years prior to the Holocaust. I have done videos, I guess maybe a year and a half ago. The Lord had me do some videos on cancel culture that comes from Hitler's mind control of the people of his country. I see the same thing Hitler did happening in America. Most Americans are not okay with treating someone differently because they were Jewish. Like that just goes against everything we believe. Yet we have had 3 people killed on American soil in the past 6 months that were Jewish. I do encourage all of you to go and watch the majority of this video because it is very interesting. It goes to show you that we're actually seeing this happen right now in real time in our country. It's heartbreaking to me that in 2025, Americans cannot see what is actually happening. It's not even that you won't see, it's that you do not want to see. I unfortunately had someone write on my channel, my God would never agree. My God would never agree with genocide. Folks, we serve the same God. If you are Christian, you are serving the same God of the Jews, okay? In Deuteronomy 20, verses 16 through 17, God commanded the Israelites, in the cities of the nations, the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. Do not leave it alive anything that breathes. Completely destroy them. The Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded you. He also tells them that in Numbers and in 1 Samuel. That is your God saying, I want you to totally and utterly destroy anything that's breathing, that is animal and or man. This is not me. Do not get mad at me. But the lack of biblical upbringing in America is what is allowing Satan to deceive you. Okay? The reason God tells the Jews, the Israelites, the Israeli nation, whatever you want to call them, to totally destroy these people is that they were unsanctioned seed. Leslie did a video for you guys on that already. The Seed Wars is the title. It is in the video list. Go watch it. It explains this is unsanctioned seed. They worshiped idols and fallen angels, and they were into cannibalism and offering their children up in burnt offerings and all this nonsense. And God told them, the Israelites, get rid of every person, every animal, everything to do with these people. It's tainted. It is tainted. The Canaanites were a brutal and wicked culture that frequently engaged in incredibly decadent behavior. Leviticus 18 provides a list of sins that Israel was to avoid at all cost: incest, child sacrifice, homosexuality, and bestiality. All of these sins were practiced by the people of Canaan. So there was a reason God said, get rid of all that. That is technically, in what today's terms that we use the word genocide, Israel's committing a genocide. No, they're not. And how you can be so deceived. If Israel wanted to genocide Gaza, they would simply walk through the gates and do it. It would literally be that easy. But that's not what they want. That's what the world has told you that they're doing. And you believed it. And then you have in your mind that the God that you love would never sanction and act like that. But you're wrong because you don't do your studies. I'm not going to say much more about that, but I am going to tell you guys to go look up who in today's world right now would be considered the Canaanites. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, let's keep going because I've got so much information for you guys. All of this is going to tie back together. If you're new to my channel, I was once a school teacher in public school. I've helped seed a Montessori private school, Christian school. I've homeschooled, church bus, 4-H advisory board, the whole 9 yards. I run a homestead, 2 acres. We do have a newsletter, as well as we Zoom with members of our channel that row in our boat because YouTube does not pay me. And they're never going to pay me because I push back against the narrative that everybody else wants you to believe. So if you enjoy this content, if you would even send $1, we'll make sure that you're signed up for the newsletter as well as the Zooms, but you do have to add your email address in the memo. All right, let's see what my friend Aquarius has to say today.
Shout out to this lady right here, Caris Ria. And she has essentially highlighted, let me get myself out the way. She has highlighted just a short list of statements made either by Tucker or by his guests. And some of these I'm actually quite familiar with. I remember him saying verbatim. Other ones, I can't watch every single one of these pieces by him. I wish I had the time and the bandwidth, and God bless, I wish I had the patience to go through all of this. But again, for me, when I'm listening to somebody or I'm essentially investigating an individual, I start with who they are, right? Their level of integrity, etc. That's why I question him as much as I do, because there are questionable aspects of his own character, such as why would you lie about certain things so blatantly, right? He lied as an individual.
Let me stop right here and just go ahead and tell you guys something. I want you to understand what the word neoconservative is. There are a bunch of right-wing podcasters who claim to be conservatives, but they are creating the schism in the conservative party. They are not true conservatives. They are what we call neoconservative. So what is neoconservative, Samantha? Those are liberals who have become disenchanted with the Democrat Party. So they make a party swap. And in doing so, try to mold the party they've now joined to what their core belief system is. I have told y'all from day one, since I realized what was happening with Candace Owens, and I learned, I don't know how I didn't know this, that she was, a hardcore liberal for years. Then I find out that she is now calling herself conservative, but she has very few true conservative values. Why is that? Because she's a neoconservative. She only left the Democrat Party because she became disenchanted, disenfranchised. They didn't give her the attention that she wanted, the money that she wanted. So she swapped parties. But we're seeing numerous conservatives fit underneath this heading now.
I start with who they are, right? Their level of integrity, etc. That's why I question him as much as I do, because there are questionable aspects of his own character, such as why would you lie about certain things so blatantly, right? He lies to even Candace Owens sitting right in front of him, and then telling a completely different story to, what's his name? Sean Ryan, about his father's CIA history. Tell Sean Ryan, oh yeah, knew my father was CIA. I actually wanted to join when I was younger, And I have
a bunch of information on Tucker's father and the CIA, so do not go anywhere, even if you like Tucker Carlson. If you can't sit here and hear this truth, then it's not just liking, it's going further than that.
His interview with Putin, right? His maybe other former employer, Putin, who questions him about his CIA background, etc. And then in the year of our Lord 2025, the same year his father passed, actually, he claims that he never knew until Nick Fuentes brought it up. I never knew my father was in the CIA. How does this kid know that? I never knew. I didn't know until my dad passed away. Okay. If you can lie to me about something just that fundamental, there's nothing else that is beyond you. Anyway, let's go through this list, shall we? And let's see. Oh, we got quite a damn list. So start off with number one. The Mossad carried out September 11th and also took out JFK. Now, there are folks out there on either side of the aisle who will simply confirm that because they believe themselves to be the purveyor of this truth, right? There are people who have studied the subject matter of September 11th their entire lives. They have every book on it. They've, gone through every interview, etc. So I'm not going to look to go back and forth with you, but I'm just simply stating that this level of certainty to be like, these people did that. These people did that, and it for sure happened. They for sure did it. There is going to be retribution for that. That is what, we would call a blood libel. Jews were taking, I don't know if I can say that word on here. It's the napping of kids, but they're not napping kids, if you catch what I'm throwing. Christian children in Schmatzi, Germany. This is something that he allowed to be said on his programming. Israel is trying to rebuild the third temple and has plans of a greater Israel. And that's a very ironic point, right? The greater Israel, they're trying to occupy basically the entirety of the Middle East is what they're trying to do allegedly, right? They have still been the same size and are even trying to be cut down into a smaller size than,
Right.
Little old New Jersey, maybe even Rhode Island or something like that. Some are saying it's smaller than New Jersey is. And yet their adversaries have conquered many lands. But we're not gonna look at that because it doesn't serve our narrative, does it, Tucker? America is sending its troops to die for Israel. That's right. Him and the rest of these so-called MAGA influencers, the ones who are exposing themselves, they had this almost parroted talking point of, we're not going to die for Israel, right? We had Candy talking about how she wasn't going to have her 4-year-old go out there and die for Israel. Instead, she would rather him do prison time because he was going to stand up for his America First virtue. Turned out that none of that actually ever happened. There was no World War III, and Iran didn't deserve to have those nuclear weapons.
No,
and
they did
DJT
not.
had promised to do exactly that, I think since 2016? So yeah, there's that part. Jews celebrate the unaliving of children. That's interesting. This sounds literally like jihadism. You could literally say the jihadists celebrate. The jihadists kidnap Christian, because they actually do.
Yeah, they do.
said the word. Oops. We'll see how it works out for us. The jihadists actually are taking Christian children. America is sending its troops to die. Okay, America should push regime change in Israel. Oh yeah, that has been pushed.
I mean, let's just talk about that. What about the regime change from the CIA and Iran? I did a video on that before Trump did the missiles at Iran, because I have a son fighting in the military in the Middle East. And I told you guys then, like, Iran was our friend in the 1950s. It was a Christian country until the CIA did their regime change. So any of you pushing for this regime change nonsense, you really are listening to CIA propaganda, because that is their modus operandus.
So the simple question of, is Stalin a Jew? Let's see this. History says there is no evidence that the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin was Jewish or had Jewish ancestry, contrary to the suggestion made in an online interview by American conservative commentator Candace. Oh, Candy, you always make your way into the conversation somehow, don't you? Clip posted on social media shows Candace, internet personality Tristan Tate. Oh, lovely
Tate,
individuals.
Human
In which Owens
traffickers.
implies that Stalin was married to a Jewish person and said, I found a friend who understands Jordanian. Oh yeah, because he was Jordanian, actually. That's his ethnic background. And they were like, everybody knows that Stalin was Jewish. And I was like, Americans don't know this. That sounds like Candace. And I was like, Americans don't know this. And I was like, is Stalin a Jew? And I was like, Americans don't know this. My friend who understands Jordanian. the more I hear Candace now from the other side of the cult of Candace Owens, the more I realize how brain dead or brainwashed I had to be to actually think she was an individual with any level, any modicum of intelligence. So, this is a recent one. How she claimed that Weissel lied about being in the Holocaust. Now, she's a genuine, and wait. I'm sorry. That's something that was brought up by both Tucker and Candace Candy Apple Katari Owens. So I guess they both shared this one right here.
Yeah, so I looked that up because I'm like, what are they talking about now? They're always claiming everything that you know is incorrect, and it all leads back to the Jews, all of it. Holocaust survivors pen open letter denouncing Elie Wiesel's abuse of history. So this gentleman won a Nobel Peace Prize. He is an author of dozens of books. He was a teenager in a Nazi concentration camp, an outspoken activist for Israel. Wiesel caused controversy in 2010 by taking out an ad in the New York Times criticizing U.S. President Barack Obama's handling of the Middle East peace talks. For me, Wiesel wrote at the time, for the Jew that I am, Jerusalem is above politics. That 2010 ad referenced Jewish history and scripture, something Wiesel has done again around the current conflict in Gaza. And another full-page ad, which ran in the New York Times and another major U.S. newspapers earlier this month, the author refers to the Old Testament stories of Ishmael and Isaac, who put an end to the Moloch practice of child sacrifice. In my own lifetime, Wiesel goes on to write, I have seen Jewish children thrown into the fire. And now I have seen Muslim children used as human shields. In both cases, by worshippers of death cults indistinguishable from that of the Molochites. How is that wrong? How is what he said wrong? There's no date on this article, so I don't know when any of that was put in there or put in the newspapers. It goes on to say the most recent missive has sparked an open letter from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, decrying what the signatories see as Wiesel's abuse of Jewish history to justify the unjustifiable. The letter, signed by more than 300 Holocaust survivors and relatives of survivors, goes on to condemn the extreme racist dehumanization of Palestinians in Israeli society. Funny thing, it was basically penned by relatives of Holocaust survivors. Supposedly, only 40 of the signatures were actually Holocaust survivors. I'm trying to figure out when this was written. When was this written? Why didn't they date this article? So weird. I'd have loved to know the date on this because that always gives you more information. August 25th, 2014. So this isn't even discussing what's going on between the Jews and the Canaanites. Oops, did I say that? The Palestinians. Now, it's not even discussing now. That was 11 years ago. Yes, 11 years ago. Because there are, to my knowledge, are there even any Holocaust survivors left? Didn't the last one just recently die? So I'm just saying, guys, it's so convenient for the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens in 2025 to be so anti-Israel, because anybody with any firsthand knowledge is no longer available to dispute it. You just have survivors of, family members of the survivors. And we all know, look, as a conservative woman, my children, having been raised in public school and then went off to university, had to have their mind straightened out after being exposed to that. Because even my strong Christian family, our children kind of veered off from what they were raised to believe. Now they came back to it. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. But just because you're the survivor, you're the family member of a survivor of the Holocaust, does not mean that you even understood what they went through or that you even believe it. Not after what I've seen Christians believe in this day and age. I would not, if it doesn't come out of the mouth of the horse's mouth, I don't even want to hear it anymore. Oh, Tucker Carlson. All right. So Dick Carlson, is this Tucker Carlson's father? Let's look at this. Dick Carlson, who led Voice of America at Cold War's end. No, I'm not fixing to play that with these people. Hold on, guys. Give me a second. This one got me. Tucker Carlson says he doesn't own a computer because the CIA plants kiddie porn. This was July 10th of 2025. Tucker also doesn't think President Trump likes creepy sex stuff. Tucker Carlson consistently ranks among the top 20 podcasts on platforms like Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. But the far right, you might as well say neoconservative influencer, made a rather bizarre admission about technology on his show this past Tuesday. He claims he doesn't own a computer. Why? Because the CIA likes to plant kiddie porn on it. I actually do believe that. The topic came up when Carlson was speaking with his guest, MAGA commentator, I don't know who this is, about Jeffrey Epstein. The Department of Justice insistence there was nothing more to release about the late pedophile. Carlson said there were two possible reasons why the DOJ was refusing to release more Epstein information. Was that one was Trump was in the files, though Carlson didn't think that was true for whatever his sins. I don't think that's guy. Actually, I don't think he likes creepy sex stuff. And then it goes on to talk about all the stuff. Obviously, not having a computer is a drastic measure to take, but it'd be perfectly doable if you're a millionaire who can afford to be completely disconnected from online conversations. But it does raise questions about how Carlson consumes media. Smartphones are computers in handheld form. Does Carlson own a smartphone? Does he believe the agency like the CIA would not be able to plant kiddie porn on a laptop but not on a phone? One of Carlson's past sponsors is a company called Unplugged, which bills itself as the ultimate privacy protector. Unplugged exists to fight, reclaim, and defend data privacy and freedoms, the company explains on its website. Unplugged was started by Eric Prince, the billionaire founder of disgraced mercenary firm Blackwater. So you can guess how much anyone should trust those claims. But perhaps Carlson was doing a subtle pitch for one of his sponsors. Who knows? Carlson has been a frequent critic of the CIA, though his family has ties to some of the very things he criticizes on his show regularly. Carlson's father, Richard Warner Carlson, was the head of Voice of America under President Ronald Reagan from 1986 to 1991. Tucker was reportedly rejected when he applied to work at the CIA as a young man, something Russian President Vladimir Putin seemed to tease him about on stage during an interview in 2024. But I thought, it's right here, can you see that? I thought Tucker didn't know his dad was in the CIA. Carlson's episode on Tuesday also got into other topics that may have been surprising to the MAGA world, including a moment when he criticized the sport, gambling, and cryptocurrency industries. They're preying, as the crypto people do, sorry, on the frustration and sadness of the young men who know they're never going to be able to afford a wife, kids, and a house. The people who wrote this article have attempted to email Carlson's company, known as the Tucker, this is funny, as the Tucker Carlson Network, to ask about his tech use, but we don't know how he'll respond without access to a computer. Please send your response through carrier pigeon, smoke signals, whatever you've got. That's funny. I have a sense of humor, folks. This is interesting. Everybody knows Trump's going after all these mainstream media outlets, right? Why? Because it's all gonna tie together. So if you've hung in this long, just continue to hang in. And by the way, guys, this may be a new me that you are not used to, but I realized something the other day. Though I like to discuss rabbit holes and stuff like that, I realized that I was attracting people to my channel who had no real biblical knowledge, and I'm not holding that against you. What you have is knowledge that the world has given you. I'm trying to recidify that. I'm trying to bring our channel to a new level by showing you that everything starts in the Bible. What is going on right now between Israel and the Gaza Strip is not going to be an easy fix. That's what all of you want that are on the Palestinian side, the Canaanite side. Oops, did I say that again? My bad. You're on that side of, just cede the land to them. No. This is an over 1,000-year war that is a spiritual war manifesting in the physical world. That land was promised to the Jews by God, our God, my God. If you believe in Jesus, your God. It's a covenant promise. It's not that easy. Okay, so Trump wants to get rid of Voice of America. However, a judge tried to block it. Now, this was 2 months ago. It says, the full Washington, D.C. Circuit Court refused to overturn motions in the case involving funding to Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, and Radio Liberty. These programs are all set up under the CIA. That is why Tucker Carlson's father, who worked in the CIA, ran Voice of America. These were propaganda news outlets to spread whatever information the CIA deemed was to be spread across the world. And because of some of the laws and legislation that Obama jiggled with, they can now do the same thing inside of America, which is why you have seen the rise of anti-Semitism and the hatred of the Jews begin to rise up like a dragon in this country, because prior to that, our news outlets could not intentionally lie to you. And if they were caught, they would get in trouble. After Obama, that was removed. They can say whatever the heck they want. But, and there's a but there, and we're fixing to get into it. Earlier in May, a federal appellate court paused a ruling that had reversed an order that the Voice of America be dismantled. As Politico reported in April, U.S. District Judge Royce Lamberth had ordered the Trump administration to bring back Voice of America workers. The judge then argued that dismantling of the organization likely violated the Constitution. These Democrat judges are absolutely all out of their mind and out of step. This is not your job. The district court issued an injunction stopping the shutdown, but the 3-judge appellate court stopped that ruling. allowing the agency to close. The pro Voice of America legal team asked for a full vote of the D.C. court, which was denied in the ruling Thursday, meaning the district court ruling will stand. Trump has been working to make significant cuts to funding and positions across the government, which has sparked several lawsuits. In the case of Voice of America, the argument has been that because Congress established the program, only Congress could eliminate it, not the executive branch. And that's somebody from Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. All right, let me show you what this one is. I already had that one. Hold on. Now let's get into the CIA. Let me explain to you what Operation Mockingbird actually is. Okay. The term Operation Mockingbird seems to have originated from the Deborah Davis unauthorized and controversial biography of Washington Post owner Katharine Graham, Catherine the Great. The term is not often used in reporting and journalists working with the CIA in 1970s, and it shouldn't be confused with Project Mockingbird, which was let me see, hold up. Which was what the CIA did. Let's see. All right. It says worldwide propaganda network built by the CIA. This was written December 26, 1977, the New York Times. So it says it's an article from the New York Times, and it talks about how, the CIA. Let me remove this so I can see better. Hold on. The CIA has employed dozens of American journalists working abroad. A 3-month inquiry by a team of reporters and researchers for the New York Times has determined that, with a few notable exceptions, that they were not used by the agency to further its worldwide propaganda campaign. In its persistent efforts to snape world opinion, the CIA has been able to call upon a separate and for a more extensive network of newspapers, news services, magazines, publishing houses, broadcasting stations, and other entities over which it has a various limes has some control. At various times had some control. A decade ago, when the agency's I don't understand what that means. Oh, communications empire was at its peak, embraced more than it does. That's not a number. It says SOO, News and Public Information Organizations and Individuals. According to one CIA official, they ranged in importance from Radio Free Europe to a third string guy in Quito who could get something in the local paper. Wow. Although the network was known officially as the Propaganda Assets Inventory to those inside the CIA, it was Wisner-Wizlert's. Frank G. Wisner, who is now dead, was the first chief of the agency's covert action staff. It says, tracing in almost any language, anywhere in the world, whatever tune the CIA was in the mood to hear. It says in 1967, some of the CIA's financial ties to academic, culture, and publishing organizations resulted in some cutbacks, and more recent disclosures of the agency's employment of American and foreign journalists have led to a phasing out of relationships with many of the individuals and the news organizations overseas. A smaller network of foreign journalists remains, and some undercover CIA men may still roam the world disguised as correspondents for obscure trade journals or business newsletters. Wow. However, several former CIA officers said that while the agency was wary of telling its American journalist agents what to write, it never hesitated to manipulate the output of its foreign-based assets. Among those number of English language publications read regularly by American correspondents abroad and by reporters and editors in the United States. So this is what would happen. The CIA would say, hey, I need you to spread this. It would get spread. Then there would be a reporter in America reading this foreign outlet paper or reporting on it right here in the good USA. And whose father was part of that, you guys? Whose father led Voice of America? Tucker Carlson. Top secret Operation Mockingbird explained. What if I told you that the US government had a secret plan to control the media and manipulate public opinion? Sounds like something out of a spy movie, right? Well, it's not. This is the story of Operation Mockingbird, a conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact. It's because the CIA had to release the documents that the CIA had a massive program to use the media to spread its propaganda. From foreign news sources to sympathetic reporters at home, the CIA allegedly used every tool at its disposal to shape the narrative and control the message. And while the existence of Operation Mockingbird has never been, it says officially confirmed, I'm going to say officially debunked, the evidence is compelling. All right. So you start right here in 1947. Congress passed the National Security Act, NSA. It established a Department of Defense. And through that, you get the CIA, right? The CIA was told to collect foreign intelligence, produce objective analysis, and conduct covert action as directed by the president. The agency would not only collect and analyze intelligence, but it would secretly support anti-communist efforts worldwide. The CIA ultimately is a spy agency, the sort you might see in spy thrillers. The CIA is allowed to act covertly, secretly in other countries, including to work with groups that are enemies of the state. An infamous case was the Bay of Pigs, where the CIA worked with rebels in a failed attempt to overturn the communist leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro. Now, the CIA was never supposed to act domestically, in other words, at home on U.S. soil. The FBI and other government institutions were in place to address domestic crime control and intelligence gathering. The CIA did not always follow the rule. They were involved in the Watergate, right, with President Nixon. A request of information provided information about this report referencing called Project Mockingbird that took place from March to June of 1963. All right. A mockingbird is a skilled mimic, something that can copy the sounds of others, right? The CIA did not like the fact that reporters were publishing articles that contained classified information about what the CIA was doing. So, working with the phone company, the then Attorney General Robert Kennedy tapped reporters' phones. The taps were likely illegal under the law at the time, resulted in a trove of information about the reporter's sources. So the reporters were getting information for members of Congress, staff members, and the vice president's office. And of course, such leaks continue to this day, providing important information to the public. This CIA surveillance effort was named Project Mockingbird because the agency wanted to be like the mockingbird and be able to repeat what was being said about them. But not just repeat, folks. They wanted to control. And the CIA was also involved in mind control. I have brought you proof that they were using mediums and psychics and all of this stuff. So you see all that, and it just begins to show you how dangerous. Now, some of you may have seen the Tucker Carlson interview with this nun. So let's talk about this nun for a second. Is this a woman? Y'all put it in comments. Tell me what you think. That doesn't look any more woman to me. than Macron's right, Brigitte. They're both manly looking. I mean, it's got a full mustache going on right there. The reason I'm asking you, do y'all know who this is, who this really is? This is the sister of George Stephanopoulos. Does that ring a bell? George Stephanopoulos was the ABC reporter that had to pay, pull it up, had to pay $15 million in legal settlement to the Trump defamation case. This is him.
You a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. This was a
civil court.
It was a civil court.
This is what he said. Let's listen.
The lawsuit stemming.
You don't find it offensive that Donald Trump has been found liable for rape?
Tonight, the fallout from a bombshell settlement in President-elect Trump's defamation suit against ABC News.
Endorse Donald Trump for president. Judges and 2 separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape.
The lawsuit stemming from this March interview by anchor George Stephanopoulos, where he grilled South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a survivor of rape, on how she could support Trump.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
And I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. This was a
civil court.
It was a civil court.
Stephanopoulos falsely saying Trump was liable for rape more than 10 times over the course of the interview.
It has been shown to be rape. The judge affirmed that it was in fact rape. Donald Trump was found to have committed rape. That's just a fact.
In fact, the jury in the E. Jean Carroll case found Trump liable for sexual abuse and explicitly not for rape. Mr. Trump sued, claiming that Stephanopoulos and the network knew or should have known the statement was false. His lawyers citing this interview Stephanopoulos did with Carroll months earlier.
The first announcement was made, and it was that he was not found liable for rape. What were we thinking at that moment?
Robbie and I were sitting together, we were holding hands. Her hand was ice cold.
Complicating the dispute, the judge in the Carroll case clarified in a written opinion that New York's definition of the term rape is narrow, and that the jury's finding, quote, does not mean that she failed to prove Mr. Trump raped her, as many people commonly understand the word rape. The jury found that Mr. Trump, in fact, did exactly that.
It was against my will, and it hurt, and it was a fight.
Carroll alleged Trump assaulted her in a Manhattan department store in the mid-90s. Trump is appealing 2 jury verdicts, ordering him to pay Carroll nearly $90 million. In the settlement, ABC agreeing to donate $15 million to Trump's presidential library, pay $1 million to his legal team, and add a statement to their article on the interview reading, ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during the interview. In a statement, the network saying, "We are pleased that the parties have reached an agreement to dismiss the lawsuit on the terms in the court filing." The deal widely seen as a win for President-elect Trump, who has made attacking the news media part of his political brand for years.
We have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt,
There it
almost
is.
as corrupt as our elections.
Some journalists criticizing.
There it is. Thank God for a president that is going after all of this nonsense, because I do understand that there's so much information out there, guys. And most people are good-hearted. You're good-hearted. You genuinely want to be on the right side in history. You're concerned because somebody told you that what Israel's doing in Gaza is wrong. But the same people that keep telling me that somehow Israel's starving Israel's starving the people in Gaza, none of you have shown me any proof that that's actually true. And not any of you ever talk about the hostages that are actually starving. So shame on you. Until you want to have a conversation about everything, let's not have a conversation at all. Anyway, this woman right here is George Stephanopoulos. That's his sister. That's his sister, you guys. That's who this is. So why is Tucker talking to someone who is obviously hates Trump? Because look, family members are not that different usually. Her brother is extremely liberal, works for ABC, defamed Trump, lost in court, really nasty little man, right? So his sister probably is not much different, even though she wears that nun habit, because I think we all know what the history of some of the nuns have done is pretty bad. So let's hear what these guys have to say. Remember, everything I show you, every article I reference will be in description of the video. And if you'd like to support our channel, please look at the top of comments.
That Israel built actually led to like more than 90% reduction in terrorist attacks on Israeli soil.
Well, that's, a pleasant side effect, but the real goal was to stop this lady from having easy access to
probably
other places.
Probably. Sven Doggy says parasites are full of sushi, just so you know.
Palestine is separating Palestine from Palestine in the two. I get back home.
I'm sorry. And they did that just for fun.
What kind of reception did you see? You went to Congress?
Yeah, and there are a handful. Actually, I remember a very sweet occurrence. He's died since, but Senator Paul Wellstone of Minnesota. I was scheduled to meet him, and he wasn't there. But then he came, and he literally ran down the hall to catch me. So there are a few people that were sympathetic. But overall, no. And I even felt the sense when I was talking to people that like I went to a meeting where there were a few aides there of different Congress people, right, not just in one office, and just felt as if there was someone there watching what I was saying or doing.
Jews give them aides.
Anyway, so I get back.
Did you meet with any Christian church leaders here in the U.S.?
Unfortunately, I mean the Catholic Church has done a lot and said a lot. But I sad to say, I feel the Orthodox Church in America has been very reluctant to speak out on this issue.
Why?
Or to get involved.
Wait a minute. Why am I getting thrashed by Orthodox Christians? This woman literally just sits here and says that the church that actually did something was the Catholic Church, and that the Orthodox Church barely
Church in America said a lot, but I sad to say, I feel the Orthodox Church in America has been very reluctant to speak out on this issue.
What? Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. The online Orthodox community will probably say that the Orthodox Church in America is controlled by the Jews. You know how it goes.
Or to get involved. Maybe sometimes I think it's just simply awareness. Even when people go on pilgrimages to the Holy Land, they probably have Israeli tour guides, and they don't, it's an amazing experience to go to the Holy Land. It's over.
Wait, dude, didn't you go on tours before, like Christian tours in Israel?
Yeah, I went on a Christian tour when I was in Israel. Yes, it was an Israeli tour guide because it was in Israel.
Was he a Jew?
It was like if you go for a tour in the United States, it's probably going to be a tour guide from the United States. When we crossed over into the West Bank to go to Bethlehem, it was not an Israeli tour guide. It was a West Bank tour guide.
West Bank represent. Okay, yeah. Well, see, there you go, debunked.
Overwhelming to be a pious person to go there, and you're thinking about going to see where Jesus was, and here I'm on the Sea of Galilee, and you don't really perceive what that wall means, or who are those people living over there, or how come there's only cars with yellow plates here.
Wait, so you David, you went on a tour and you were led through the West Bank by a West Bank guy and a woman.
Yeah, a woman from Bethlehem.
But that was probably just actually an Israeli person under disguise as a West Bank woman, right?
Is that a woman?
They said something about Israeli tour guides aren't supposed to be over there, something like that. They said we're not allowed over there. You see this? They're being oppressed. The Israeli tour guides are being oppressed. They're not even allowed. Their movement is being restricted.
And then we were in Jericho, and I saw these green and white plates. What does that mean going on? They don't understand it, so they don't get the concept.
What does the yellow
for 2 weeks.
license plate mean?
Yellow plate is for people who live in the state of Israel, and they can go on certain roads. all roads, and for Palestinians who have a Jerusalem ID are allowed to have a car with a yellow plate. And then
Wait a minute. What do you mean all roads? I'm pretty sure that the people from Israeli thing are not supposed to go on certain roads that are only reserved for Palestinian West Bank residents.
AP, did you know that in America you have to have an American license plate?
Really? That's messed up.
Palestinians have green and white plates, and they cannot use. So over that time that I've been here, as the settlements have grown, you build the infrastructure for it. The electricity, the roads, separate roads that are used only by people that have yellow plates. As a foreigner and part of a foreign church, we were entitled to have either those, or they also have white diplomatic plates, the kind of diplomatic and religious plates that are there. So there's very much an apartheid system. Very much so. It's which gave me the free.
This is apartheid system? Dude, she's just describing a country.
Yeah, she's describing the rules of a country. Namely, you can't always just take some random car into drive it up into a different country and think that everything is okay there.
Oh my gosh. Can you guys not hear the ignorance and the propaganda? And I'm sorry. I'm going to need a DNA test on that to begin with. But let's just say, and I have heard that there are places that, out of state cars can't go. Why? Would somebody be so kind? Because I'm going to do it right here, but I'm going to need other people to do it too, because you won't believe me if you don't do it yourself. How many car bombings have happened in Israel in the past 10 years? Oh, wow. Look at that. In 2023, let me double check. In 2023, there are 1,481 terrorist attacks. They don't break it down by just vehicle. But you guys, here's an example. Man seriously hurt in car blast in South. 4 killed, including 3 children from a car explosion. Palestinian vehicle hits police car in West Bank. The IDF says it was a deliberate attack. Hamas claims responsibility for dual car bombing in West Bank. 2 car bombs detonate in coordinated West Bank attacks. Terrorists killed by troops. Man seriously injured by car bomb in 3rd suspected Netanyahu hit attempt in 1 week. 2 killed, 3 injured as gangland car bombing sparks police chase. So, because you've got a group of uncivilized people who are Islamic terrorists who raise their children dancing in kindergarten shows with fake pow-pows and faking cutting off Jewish heads. They start this when they're 4 and 5 years old, and they propagate these children through school, much like what they did with the American children, but they turned them into a bunch of whiny, feminized males and masculine females, instead of turning them into like little, but you know what I'm saying. Now what you've got is a country that had to implement, if you have a vehicle driven by somebody that is not a citizen of Israel, you don't get a yellow plate. And maybe you're not allowed to drive on certain roads because the chances are you are more likely to attempt to kaboom the car. It's not that hard. But if I want to turn something, I'm hearing people say right now that it isn't right for illegal aliens to be able to not be able to vote in federal elections. It's not their country. So you either believe somebody like this and that Israel is an apartheid state. I'm gonna tell you, y'all are killing me with this. It's just funny.
Literally, a place with borders is apparently an apartheid state.
Yeah, I guess America.
Yeah, because there's going to be different rules for people who are actually citizens of this place and people who aren't.
What do you mean different rules? It's literally apartheid, man.
Yeah, it's apartheid.
Freedom to help my Christian friends in Bethlehem and other places. Like one time, there was a woman who, her daughter, they were from Bethlehem, married a Christian who lived in Jerusalem. So he had rights to be in the city of Jerusalem, have blue ID. But the mother, when the daughter gave birth to their first child, she didn't have any way to go to see her daughter because it would be illegal for her to go into Jerusalem.
Cool. When I got married, my parents couldn't go to visit me in America because they don't have permits to be in America.
It's apartheid, man.
I have a daughter in New Zealand that got married that I could not be part of it because I don't have a passport. I had a felony pass. I don't even know if I can get a passport. I haven't been on paper in like 15 years. I'll have to look into that because eventually I intend to visit her. But I just couldn't jump on a plane and fly to New Zealand either. You people are ridiculous. If you're falling for this fake man nuns explanations of apartheid, then you're being programmed and prepared for the one world everything. One world government, one world religion. And don't tell me you aren't. Yes, you are. Because if a country cannot be sovereign and say, if you don't have permission to be in this country, you can't come in, then you don't believe in sovereignty of countries anymore. You believe in a one world system. It's literally that simple. But because people have been told that you must hate the Jewish people, you cannot see it. Now, there is something called Chrislam. Get ready for this. Is a Christian expression of Islam, originating as an assemblage of Christian and Islamic religious practices in Nigeria. In particular, the series of religious movements that merged Christian and Muslim religious practices during the 1970s. That is on the rise. They're also adding a little bit of Jewish to it. That will be the religion that is used during their one world government. And baby, please believe when they have this one world system in place that there will be people with different IDs and different color license plates with permission to go that places others cannot. It'll be the elites versus you, because you became children of the dragon and you helped usher in the end times.
To get there. So I had the school van and I went to Bethlehem, go get her. And a lot of times we'd have a little more leeway. If I go through a checkpoint, they'll see it's a nun and I can pass through a lot easier.
Wait, she's saying it's easier for a nun to go through a checkpoint. Shouldn't it be harder since literally the entire point of the checkpoint was to stop Christians from having easy access to one another?
Wait, what? Wait a minute. What?
So I had the school van and I went to Bethlehem, go get her. And a lot of times we'd have a little more leeway. If I go through a checkpoint, they'll see it's a nun and
Yeah, you guys, I didn't show you because this is a very long interview, these two guys. I didn't show y'all where when she starts by saying that they put up a fence around the boys' school just to keep Christians from each other. And then she plays this.
Go pass through a lot easier than someone else would. So I was able.
What the hell?
I thought
she just sat there and for quite a while talked about how Israel is oppressing or having an apartheid system to specifically prevent Christians.
Yeah, it wasn't about security, not about security.
Stuff away and all that.
Not about stopping terrorists. It's about stopping Christians from being able to move about freely. And then she says, since I'm a nun, it's way easier for me to get around.
This is the funny thing about lying,
Amen.
That it's very difficult to be consistent when you're lying.
Able to get her through and be able to go see her daughter at the birth of her granddaughter.
We're sorry to say it, but this is not a
I don't care about your country music, man.
justification if there's a system. I'll just be totally blunt with you. Most Americans are aware that there's a system, something like what you just described.
Right.
But the pretext for it,
even there are borders. Yeah, we're aware of that.
Justification for it is that there's a lot of Islamic terrorism. There are a couple intifadas. There are a lot of suicide bombings, and it's just,
who could think that? Why would they think that? Yeah.
Islamic terror, and most Americans have been taught for 25 years that Islamic terror is this.
Yeah, no, that's totally not real. It's totally fantasy, made up.
Is a threat, and there's some truth in that, of course. But so we assume that Christians would be getting an exemption from all this. Why would Christians who are not responsible for Christian terror, there's no such thing, why would they be penalized?
David, do you remember the conversation? Do you happen to remember the conversation that I had with? I don't want to mention who I had the conversation with, but we were together in Israel, in Jerusalem, and I had a conversation with a Christian, with a Coptic Greek Christian. And I asked him about the situation in Israel. And I asked him about how it is for Christians in Israel and all that. It wasn't recorded. We were just talking off the camera. We were sitting together. And he told me there that that one of the only things that bothers him is that they are living in an environment where there is a constant tension, a constant things that things could escalate and go wrong between the Muslims and the Jews, but that as Christians, they're in the middle of it, and that Muslims actually have some resentment against Christians because when Christians go to a checkpoint, for example, and the Israeli security forces see that the Christians have a cross hanging in their car, the Israeli security forces calm down and just, easily let them pass, let them through. And do you remember that conversation by any chance? I don't know if you do, but so the Christian was explaining to me that as Christians, of course, we are being treated differently by the Israeli security forces when we go to a checkpoint and they see. They see we're approaching, they get nervous, but then once they see that we have a cross or a crucifix hanging in our car, they calm down and
I just can't understand how people believe this crap. George Stephanopoulos. And then they go on to talk about caliphs. Y'all better wake up about these Islamic terrorists, man.
At you and coming at you until all of you are wiped out. Why? Because it's a command of Muhammad, and you say, "Oh, no, this isn't about Islam or targeting Jews or something like that." Okay, I do not take you seriously as a person who has any clue what she's talking about. You're either completely ignorant or you're evil.
Child of the dragon.
Lots of other stuff I could understand. If you're a Christian in the West Bank and something happened because of some Jewish strike on a terrorist group and it blew up your house or something, and you're complaining about the Jews, okay, I understand that. You're in a spot where some stuff has happened to you and stuff. But this is just covering for.
Again, no. I live in a Black community. If something happens to me by someone that's Black, I don't get to hate the entirety of the community I live in. No. If you're over there in the Middle East, you're living in a flipping war zone.
Islam using, and Tucker too. Hey, let me get a woman on here who say to tell people this is nothing about Islam. And what's he getting paid? $15 million from some Pakistani Iranian dude?
Yeah.
Evil stuff, man. Evil, evil, evil.
Evil stuff.
That, constantly you heard after the October event was that Hamas. Even to this day, we hear it's Hamas.
Yeah. She can't even say the October 7 terrorist attack.
Yeah, it reminds me of Ilhan Omar.
She can't
just because some people did something on September 11th.
Oh, she didn't say it, did she? Hold on. I missed that.
Like that, I don't care about anything else she says. I just don't. You when you've got people saying we're killing you because of what Muhammad said, and we're going to keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you until all of you are wiped out. Why? Because it's a command of Muhammad, and you say, "Oh, this isn't about Islam or targeting Jews or something like that." Okay, I do not take you seriously as a person who has any clue what she's talking about. You're either completely ignorant or you're evil. Lots of other stuff I could understand. If you're a Christian in the West Bank and something happened because of some Jewish strike on a terrorist group and it blew up your house or something, and you're complaining about the Jews, okay, I understand that. You're in a spot where some stuff has happened to you and stuff. But this is just covering for Islam, using, and Tucker too. Hey, let me get a woman on here who say to tell people this is nothing about Islam. And what's he getting paid? $15 million from some Pakistani Iranian dude.
Yeah.
Evil stuff, man. Evil
stuff.
That, constantly you heard after the October event was that Hamas. Even to this day, we hear it's Hamas.
Yeah. She can't even say the October 7th terrorist attack.
How wicked. October 7th event. They put babies in ovens.
Yeah, it reminds me of Ilhan Omar. Just because some people did something on September 11th.
October 7th.
And then she's...
Why would I have any respect for her? I'm sorry, look,
And then she's saying, "Oh, and people say Hamas." I'm like, what did Hamas have to do with this? What a freaking nut job, man!
I try to be as good about this as possible, but it's just it's really difficult for me to acknowledge, to appreciate how in the world I'm supposed to have how I'm supposed to be reasonable about this. I'll just drop it, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. You can say a lot of things that I completely disagree with, and I still don't think you're evil, and I don't think you're being deceptive and so on. Eventually you cross a line. I'm like, nope, you're either in the you're in a different category now, and I do not take you seriously.
Just think about this. You have a lot of people, innocent people. Of course, if you have a preconceived notion about them, they're not innocent people to you.
But the people,
but you have a lot of innocent people who are brutally killed. Over 1,000 of them who are brutally killed, brutally massacred
in that event.
Who are tortured.
It was an event.
Who are raped. Who are abducted and tortured and held.
That's all summarized in the word event, AP.
Who are held for a year or 2 years,
being
event. Brutally tortured and starved.
That's part of the
killed,
event.
Possibly executed at some point. Then you have their loved ones, the people they left behind, who have seen it happen or have heard of it, who are longing for their loved ones who were either brutally murdered or who were taken hostage, or who are taking care of traumatized civilians who simply were having a regular day, but who were brutally attacked by these animals, by these filthy Islamic terrorists. And these people have so much pain in them now. And we have seen the footage, hours and hours and hours and hours of footage of these Islamic terrorists doing all kinds of inhuman atrocities to them, executing people in the middle of the road, raping them, leaving them with their pants down after raping them, setting them on fire, and other civilian terrorists coming and shouting, Allahu Akbar, look at these Zionist dogs. You have videos of these terrorists going and torturing these civilians, beheading them, setting them on fire. You have all these things. And then you have some self-proclaimed nun here. Sorry, you have a nun here who actually sits down and who downplays or justifies or sugarcoats these things that these monsters do. As much as I would like to not condemn some people, it is just incredibly, incredibly difficult. There's a lot of really, really bad stuff in the world, and you have this filthy, filthy person disguised as a nun coming and justifying that kind of stuff.
And I'm going to agree with him, like it or not. She is a filthy person. I found a whole article on my phone while I was listening to this. It says a nun embroiled an unorthodox confrontation. This was January 28, 2000. 25 years ago. Sister Maria Stephanopoulos, sister of former White House aide George Stephanopoulos, is not about to vacate the premises. She has not had a shower in 13 days and is holed up behind the iron gates of a Russian Orthodox monastery in Jericho. She has been manhandled by Russian monks, shadowed by Palestinian security guards, and protected by American diplomats. She's a grifter. For 25 years, this woman has wanted to be as famous as her brother, because it even goes on to say, unlike her more famous brother, it says sibling, elected to lead a life out of spotlight after she graduated from the University of Michigan. She trained as a Russian Orthodox nun. She took her final vows in the Russian Orthodox Church in exile and dropped her name, her given name, Anastasia. Help from brother? Sister Maria says her brother has interceded on her behalf with the White House and its National Security Council. But George Stephanopoulos and the White House say the inquiries are for more information only and not to influence policy. We just wanted to make sure that our family has all the information we can get and that she's safe. She was in a monastery near the center of Jericho. Wow. The Palestinian Authority raided the walled compound, evicted its monks and two lay workers living there, and handed control of the place to clerics loyal to the Russian Orthodox Church in Moscow. Wow. That was in 2000. Palestinian security officials let it be known that they recognized the Moscow as the official Russian Orthodox Church. So they're all in bed together. Sister Maria, she was 40 then, a nun in the White Russian Church, has been living in the Middle East for 3 years. She happened to be driving near Jericho the day the monastery was seized. She reached for her cell phone, slipped into the compound, and made her way toward the 6th century chapel to pray. She did not get far. Russian monks from the Red Church blocked her way, dragged her off the premises as the Palestinian police just watched. Our prayer robe was on the ground. My sweater was pulled off. I couldn't breathe. Oh, wow. They readmitted her to the compound when the U.S. Consul got involved. Guys, did you know that if you're a nun and your brother is George Stephanopoulos, you can be in the Middle East and call for the consulate to come and save you? So they slept in a damp shed on the property under the guard of the Palestinian police. A half dozen Palestinian police officers patrol the grounds, armed with pistols and assault rifles. Nuns, priests, and journalists come to visit the two American nuns, may speak to them only through the gates. The schism between the New York and the Moscow was triggered by the birth of Soviet communism. Wow. This woman is known for her nonsense. She was just driving by. You guys, she was just driving by on her way to Jericho and just happened to be there the day that the church was transferring. Which church was going to control it? Which Catholic group? Wow.
Early on, 2000, there was an airport built soon after the Oslo Accords, but Israel has intervened many times in Gaza and little by little destroyed. You know, when I first went there.
In Gaza, there was an airport built that was destroyed later on in the early 2000s. Probably had nothing to do with terrorist attacks or anything.
In 2002, after the second intifada started, I remember saying to my mother back home, you know, this is genocide, even that genocide by Chinese water torture. But now we're seeing genocide on steroids. What's going on?
What an interesting genocide, man. Gaza population growth. Let's see.
So this is this is beyond genocide. This is genocide on steroids.
Yeah, it's like ultra genocide.
Like big genocide. Really, really.
You guys need to get out of your houses. Seriously. People who believe this, you've never traveled. Like, you don't understand what the world is really like outside of the United States. You only know what this computer is telling you.
Big genocide.
Look at this genocide.
Regular genocide.
The genocide is so brutal that the population keeps growing.
Amen.
This is like a very peculiar form of genocide. Look at this.
And this is the steroids one.
Dude.
It kind of doesn't look like anything Israel has done has made a slight dent in the population. Like not even slightly.
That's like the most interesting genocide ever, man. Wow.
Yeah, so you got genocide, which normally wipes out large parts of a population, but then you have genocide on steroids where you can't even tell that anything happened by looking at the statistics.
Amazing, man. This genocide is like the most special genocide ever. Wow.
It's a miracle genocide.
Oh.
So let's see. And remember, she brought up the Oslo Accords. I did that too the other day for you guys. Let's see right here. I did. Oh, and by the way, now that Tucker Carlson has done this show about this woman, this nun, Stephanopoulos, whatever, Sister George Stephanopoulos, you almost all the articles right here. I put Stephanopoulos issues statement to President Trump amid $15 million settlement. They've removed the article. They've removed the article over and over again. I was getting that. I had to find the one on my phone where it says that George Stephanopoulos was, you know, pretty much responsible for the $15 million. Or it says ABC and Stephanopoulos to pay Trump $15 million. If it says that Stephanopoulos, if his name is listed in the title, I feel like they're purging the web. It's getting harder and harder. You can find where ABC owes, but you can't find it with the name and the title together anymore. That's how they wipe it. They wipe it out of the key searches, so you can't find it. It's not that they get rid of it in real life, they get rid of it here. So let's do this. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Go this way for a second. 1880. Look at that. That's when we started recording it all the way up to around 1913. Then look at this drop right here. Then slow growth, and then bam. It just goes to 2014 on this one. It shows you all the areas where they were located. Africa, North America, Asia, East Europe, West Europe, Oceania, Latin America, Palestine, Israel. I love how they do that. They can Palestine, Israel. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So let's do it the way they did it. Yeah. All right, there it is. Wow. That's a heck of a genocide, you guys. Mm. How they have this out here when these years haven't even, it's not even 2028 yet. We just won't go with that one because they're even showing, yeah. This is 2024. There are more flipping Palestinians in 2024 than there were in 2023. Dude, I love you guys and I love what I do. Can y'all not see it? Stalin was not a you, a you, a Jew. I'm so concerned about the world we live in. And just so you guys know, I had someone ask this question. I'll go ahead and address it. There are Jews that do not believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Yep, there are Jews that believe that. And then there are Jews that do believe Jesus was the Messiah. Everything you see happening is leading up to Jesus coming back. When I'm talking about the red heifers, I'm not talking about the Jewish people believe that the red heifer is going to cleanse them from sin. It's got nothing to do with sin. It's got to do with a purification ritual. There's so many misconceptions. That's why it's so important to find a good church and get involved in it. The same people that are against tithing are the same people that don't believe that these are the real Jews. Israel is not just a people. It is an actual physical place. I really do pray the Lord leads the right people to my channel, because I was talking to my son that's in the Middle East about this. I said, right now, what I'm seeing is, and he said this, he said, Mom, what's happening with your YouTube channel right now is the Lord is getting rid of the chaff. He's thinning that out for you so that you can grow a platform of true Bible believing Christians. I don't want to be known as someone that just has conspiracy theories. I love to talk about things that are not mainstream knowledge, but I will never perpetuate a topic that isn't true. And personally, after reading some of the comments that the children of the dragon have left, I don't really want those people here. I don't care if it gives me more subscribers. I don't get paid by YouTube. It doesn't benefit me to spend hours trying to debate with somebody on YouTube in the comment section. I really don't. I want to spend my time showing you guys the truth of what's actually happening in our country. And that means that we have to go through this information first. I must show you the deception. It's okay, friend. We're doing this together in real time. And it's going to be okay. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to teach, to show people the truth, to point out the obvious propaganda. I know, Father, and the Jewish people are your blessed ones. And I thank you. I thank you for Jesus dying on the cross that allowed me to be grafted in to this family. And I pray that they receive their land back. I pray that our leaders understand the spiritual implications. Father, I ask you today to bless me, bless my children, bless my family, bless my finances, and bless everybody on this channel. God bless you, God, and God bless you, Israel. In Jesus' most precious name, amen. Doesn't mean I think Israel's perfect by any means. I don't think the American government's perfect. I don't like some stuff Trump's done. I didn't like anything Joe Biden did. I didn't like anything George Bush did. But I still love America. Yet the same people that are trying to annihilate Israel on every single day chant death to America. So you keep being a Hamas supporter and a child of the dragon, and the rest of us, filled with the Holy Spirit, children of the Most High King, the Jewish King, will hang out over here. Love you guys. Be blessed out there.